Once upon a time there were empires whose armies crossed mountains, whose caravans crossed deserts, whose treasures were legendary. They were so powerful that kings trembled at the mention of their names. They were so rich that the splendor of their palaces was the stuff of fairy tales. Now, neither their capitals stand, nor their monuments, nor their generations remember their glorious past. They were born quietly, grew up noisily, and disappeared without anyone noticing. The merciless winds of history erased them so thoroughly that today we can only learn of their existence through the excavations of archaeologists and between the lines of ancient manuscripts. Who knows how many empires have vanished like this? How many civilizations disappeared into the misty pages of history? In this video, we will go in search of these lost empires. From Mitanni, the ancient kingdom of Mesopotamia, to Aksum, the forgotten power of Africa. From Bactria, the master of the Silk Road, to Khazar, the ruler of the steppes, and Palmyra, the queen of the deserts, we will tell the story of 5 great empires that have been erased from history. If you are ready, let's take a journey back thousands of years to a time when these great empires still existed. And if you want to wander through the misty pages of history together and witness more of these forgotten stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. There are many more stories to tell. No empire's story lasts forever, but some are forgotten as if they never happened. Now, let's join together in the silent. Although its name is forgotten today, the Mitanni Empire was once an influential power that could sit at the same table with great powers from Egypt to the Hittites. Between approximately 1500 to 1300 BC, they dominated the western part of Upper Mesopotamia. That is, in today's southeastern Anatolia and Syria. Their capital was Wasakani. Although its exact location has not been determined today, it is estimated to be located in northeastern Syria, somewhere around the Khabur River. The Mitannids were a noble class, probably of Indo-Aryan origin. It is estimated that this class crossed the Zagros Mountains through northeastern Iran and reached Mesopotamia. The people they ruled were of Hurri origin. In other words, Mitanni was an empire born from the combination of the aristocratic class and the local people. Its most brilliant period was during the reign of King Shashtatar. It is said that he captured Assyria, one of the most powerful cities of the period, and had the doors of his palace covered with gold. During the reign of Shashtatar's grandson Artatama, a strong friendship was established between Mitanni and Egypt. The Egyptian pharaoh Tutmosis III married a Mitanni princess. This marriage was the beginning of an alliance between the two powerful states that would last for years. The Amarna letters found in the 90s reveal this alliance. In the letter sent to Pharaoh, the Mitanni king describes himself as "my brother." This shows the equal power relationship of that period. The most remarkable feature of the Mitanni was their success in early warfare technology. They not only used horse-drawn chariots, but also skillfully organized them and turned them into an art of warfare. This technology was taken as an example even during the reign of Ramses II in Egypt. Some historians even suggest that the Hittite and Egyptian armies learned chariot tactics from the Mitannis. But perhaps the most important thing was their mastery of horse breeding. So much so that the manuals of horse training, the most prestigious profession of the period, were written in Mitanni. Excavations in Bogazkale in Khoram, once home to Hattusa, the capital of the Hittite civilization, unearthed the Hittite archives and uncovered the world's oldest horse training manual. The work was written on 4 tablets in 1345 BC by a Mitannian horse trainer named Kikili. The 1080-line work begins with the words, "Thus speaks Kikili, the master horse trainer of the Mitanni land," and goes on to describe in detail how horses should be fed, trained, and even how many times a day they should be watered. The religious beliefs of the Mitanni were also quite interesting. They worshipped the Indian gods Indra, Mitra, and Varuna. This is one of the most important proofs of their Indo-European origin. They also adopted Mesopotamian gods such as Ishtar. So how did such a powerful empire disappear from the stage of history? This is where the real mystery begins. Everything started to change with the rise of the Hittites on the stage of history. The Hittite king Shuppiluliuma I organized a great campaign against Mitanni. He captured and sacked the capital Wasakani. This was the beginning of the end of the empire. Then the rise of the Assyrian Empire dealt the final blow to Mitanni. With the fall of their capital in 1350 BC, this great civilization was buried in the dust of history. Neither its people were massacred, nor was it completely destroyed by a great war. But like a slowly dying candle, it gradually lost its influence and existence. Assyrian and Hittite forces settled in its place and its lands were divided. All that remains are diplomatic letters, broken pottery shards, and archaeological debates. In short, Mitanni as an empire may have disappeared from world memory today. But it is certain that they held a very important place in the political balances of the ancient world for a while. And in this respect, Mitanni shows us another side of history. Extinction does not always come with war. Sometimes oblivion is the quietest collapse. In the ancient lands of Africa, in the north of what is now Ethiopia, there was a kingdom that rivaled the Roman and Persian empires as the greatest powers of its time. Ruler of the Red Sea trade and protector of Africa's gold and ivory resources, the Kingdom of Aksum. Founded in the 1st century AD, who would have thought that this kingdom would be the most powerful state in the region for nearly 1,000 years? The secret of Aksum's power lay in its strategic location. The Red Sea on one side and rich African lands on the other. This location made them one of the most important trade centers of the period. The origins of Aksum are not entirely clear, but it was probably a kind of confederation of tribes from the south of the Nile Valley that mingled with the local population. Aksum's golden age was under King Ezana. Ezana, who ascended the throne in the 4th century AD, took the kingdom to a whole new level. Ezana, who gave himself the title of King of Abyssinia, Sheba, Hymir and Radan, the King of Kings, was not only a powerful ruler but also a great revolutionary. He made history as the first African ruler to convert from paganism to Christianity. In fact, the coins he minted had pagan symbols on one side and the Christian cross on the other. Moreover, these coins were the first standard coins in Africa and are still frequently found in archaeological excavations today. Aksum's wealth was also legendary. The giant obelisks they built in their capital Aksum astonish even today. These tall stone pillars were erected to mark the tombs of kings and required incredible technical mastery. The most famous is the Stele of Aksum, about 33 meters tall and considered one of the masterpieces of ancient architecture. Religiously, Aksum is also very important. In the 4th century, King Ezana's adoption of Christianity as the official religion was a critical turning point in the spread of Christianity in Africa. As the birthplace of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, Aksum has left a unique legacy in the history of religions. According to some sources, the inscriptions written during the reign of King Ezana are the oldest known Christian inscriptions in Africa. Another important feature of Aksum was that it was home to holy relics. According to legend, Solomon's Ark of the Covenant was kept in Aksum. Even today, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims that this chest is in the Church of the Virgin Mary in Aksum. So how did this powerful kingdom collapse? This is where the rise of Islam comes in. In the 7th century, when Muslim Arabs dominated the region, Aksum's control over trade routes weakened. Red Sea trade was now in Muslim hands. Not to mention climate change and drought. Soils became unproductive. The economy collapsed. The final blow came in the 9th century. The capital Aksum was abandoned after attacks by the Jewish Queen Yodit. The kingdom retreated south and eventually lost its power completely. The once glorious civilization became a faded memory in the pages of history. Today, the ruins of Aksum are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Giant obelisks, ancient palaces and churches still stand. But it's hard to imagine the glory of this powerful kingdom that once defied Rome. With each new excavation, archaeologists continue to discover unknown aspects of Aksum. Who knows, perhaps more secrets of this mysterious kingdom will be revealed in the future. Following Alexander's conquests, a kingdom was established in the heart of Central Asia, creating a magnificent synthesis of East and West, Greek culture and Asian traditions. The Greek Kingdom of Bactria, today known as the Lost Greek Kingdom. Bactria was a strategic region in the north of today's Afghanistan, south of the Amu Darya, Ceyhan River, which has been the dream of many great empires throughout history. This ancient kingdom, which made its name from the 3rd century BC onwards, rose in the heart of Asia, at the crossroads of great powers such as the Persians, Greeks, Kushans, and Sassanids. Every civilization that passed through wanted to dominate Bactria. Because Bactria was not just a geography, it was the crossroads of the ancient world with its wealth, culture, and location. First prominent as an important satrapy under the Achaemenids, Bactria became the eastern frontier of the Hellenistic world after Alexander's destruction of the Persian Empire. Around 250 BC, with the weakening of the Seleucids, founded by one of Alexander the Great's generals, Bactria declared its independence and the Bactrian Greek kingdom was born. This state was a civilization where East and West blended, a unique cultural synthesis. It was a world where Greek gods and Buddhist temples existed side by side, where the Greek alphabet and Indian motifs met on the same coinage. The golden age of Bactria was during the reign of King Eucratides. Eucratides, who took the title of Great King, expanded the borders of the kingdom to India. The coins he minted depicted him as a warrior king wearing a helmet and holding a spear. Today, these coins are among the most valuable ancient coins in the world. Under Menander I, Bactria enjoyed great prosperity. A wise ruler described in Buddhist texts, Menander was the pioneer of not only political but also cultural transformation. During his reign, the borders of the state extended to the north of India. Thanks to this expansion, Greek influence was brought to India and Hellenistic traces were seen in Indian art. This artistic movement, known as Gandhara art, which reflected the Western figurative style in Buddha statues, was a direct result of Bactrian influence. But this magnificent synthesis did not last long. The kings of Greek origin were weakened by constant internal strife, while Scythians from the north and Yuezhi tribes raiding from the interior of Asia invaded the region. Finally, in the 1st century BC, the Kushans established a new empire in these lands. Although the Bactrian Greek kingdom disappeared from the stage of history, its cultural legacy reached China through the Kushans. Bactria's real importance stemmed not only from its political power, but also from its location at the heart of the Silk Road. Caravans from China stopped here, goods changed hands, ideas, religions, and people met here. Bactria was therefore not just a kingdom, but a bridge of civilizations. For hundreds of years, it was at the center of the exchange between East Asia and the Mediterranean world. Today, what remains of Bactria lies buried beneath the soil in the harsh geography of Afghanistan. Terror, war, and political instability have limited archaeological excavations in the region, but the gold ornaments, remains of Greek-style temples, and Greek inscriptions unearthed reveal just how advanced a civilization Bactria was. This lost empire is like a window in the middle of history. Looking through it, we can see both the West and the East at the same time. In the thick mists of the Middle Ages, in a vast geography stretching from the north of the Caspian Sea to the Black Sea, from the Caucasus to the steppes of Central Asia, a shadowy yet influential power had risen for centuries, the Khazar Khaganate. In the late 6th century, the Khazars broke away from the western branch of the Gokturks and became independent, soon establishing their sovereignty in the north of the Caucasus. Their capital, Itil, was one of the most cosmopolitan cities of the period. Muslims, Christians, Jews and Tengrians lived together, and trade caravans flocked here from all over the world. But what really set the Khazars apart was their super-religious style of governance and their adoption of Judaism as the official religion. Yes, you have not heard wrong. In the 8th century, instead of being caught between Islam and Christianity, the Khazar Khagans chose a third way. They converted to Judaism. This conversion was actually a political maneuver. Instead of taking sides between Christianity, influenced by Byzantium, and Islam, spread by the Arabs, they chose a religion they could remain neutral. This decision allowed them to establish balanced relations with both the Eastern Roman Empire and the Abbasids. Diplomacy was as important to the Khazars as war. But the Khazars were not only clever politicians, they were also fierce warriors. By skillfully using steppe tactics, they kept the Oghuz from the east, the Slavs from the north, and the Hungarian tribes from the west under control for a long time. The Khazars also had an interesting administrative system. There was a two-headed administration, Khagan and Bek. While the Khagan was seen as a sacred figure and rarely appeared in public, Bek was the real ruler of the state. This system worked successfully for centuries. But as you know, no empire could last forever. By the 10th century, the Khazars began to weaken in the face of the Pecheneg from the east and the rising Kievan Rus from the north. In 965, the capital city of Itil fell to an attack by the Kievan knight Sviatoslav. The Khazar armies disintegrated, the administrative structure collapsed, and the Khaganate disappeared from the stage of history. By the 11th century, only small principalities remained of the once powerful Khazar Khaganate. Today there is still very little left of them. Even the ruins of the capital city of Itil are under the waters of the Volga River. But in recent years, archaeological excavations in Russia and the Caucasus have revealed new information about this mysterious state. Artifacts found in the Sarkal fortress, findings in cemeteries and trade goods prove what an advanced civilization the Khazars built. Most interesting is the debate that some of the Jews in the world today, especially Ashkenazi Jews, may be of Khazar origin. This issue still causes great disagreement among historians. Who knows, maybe future DNA research will shed light on this issue as well. But in any case, the Khazar Khaganate went down in history as a silent superpower that determined the balance of an era and ruled both east and west. In the middle of the Syrian desert, at the crossroads of caravan routes, a kingdom rose up that challenged the Roman Empire, combined the wealth of the East with the power of the West, and introduced the world to one of history's most impressive female rulers. What made Palmyra, the Pearl of the Desert, a legend was not only its splendor, but also the queen it brought to the world stage, Zenobia. Palmyra was sandwiched between Rome and Persia, but managed to thrive in the shadow of these two giants. The city, which came under Roman rule from the 1st century BC, gained great wealth thanks to its strategic location. As caravans of spices, silk and jewelry from the east passed through Palmyra, the city shone like a golden oasis in the desert. The city was a mosaic of civilization, with Greek, Aramaic, Latin and Persian cultures intertwined. But Palmyra's real rise began in the 3rd century with Queen Zenobia, who took over the throne after the death of her husband Odenathus. Known for her intelligence as well as her beauty, this female ruler declared Palmyra de facto independent at a time when the Roman Empire was weakened. She then invaded Egypt, advanced as far south as Anatolia, and soon subjugated most of the eastern Roman lands. When she declared herself Empress of the East, she was now a rival to Rome. She minted coins in her own name, hosted poets and philosophers in her palace. She spoke 5 languages and was busy writing history. But perhaps the most interesting aspect of Palmyra was its multicultural structure. Greek, Aramaic, and Latin were used together, and people of different religions lived in peace. Trade caravans crossed in the city from east to west, north to south, and it was seen as the most important stop on the Silk Road. The fact that Palmyra was such an important power was a challenge to Rome, and Rome did not leave it unanswered. Emperor Aurelian marched on Palmyra in 272. Zenobia was captured, taken to Rome, where she was paraded through the streets in chains. That was the end of Palmyra, and it never regained its former glory. But Zenobia's rebellion became legendary along with Palmyra's name. She dared to build her own empire in an age dominated by men. And with her, Palmyra took its place in history as a miracle born in the desert, a symbol of rebellion. Palmyra's architecture was as impressive as its history. The Temple of Bel, the Triumphal Arch, the street with 1,000 columns. It was all a marvelous mix of Roman and Eastern architecture. So much so that the ruins of these structures were still standing until recently and were known as the Bride of the Desert. But just as tragic as the collapse of the state was what happened more recently. In 2015, the ISIS terrorist organization literally blew up the ruins of Palmyra, which had stood the test of time for thousands of years, in full view of the world. The Temple of Bel, the Triumphal Arch, and many other historical monuments were destroyed. This ancient city, the common heritage of humanity, fell victim to the barbarism of the modern age. What remains of Palmyra today is only a pale reflection of the magnificent civilization that once existed here. But with the help of modern technology, archaeologists and historians are trying to digitally recreate this ancient city. Perhaps future generations will be able to wander through Zenobia's palace and walk down the avenue of 1,000 columns with virtual reality glasses. Wouldn't that be great? In history books we read about great empires: Rome, the Ottomans, China, Britain. But history is not only the story of the winners, it is also the story of the losers. Because behind every glorious rise there is a fall. The chariots of Mitanni are now buried beneath the earth, the obelisks of Aksum rise silently into the sky, the gold coins of Bactria sleep in the showcases of museums, the capital of the Khazar Khaganate has disappeared under the waters, and the majestic columns of Palmyra have vanished in the sands of the desert. Each of them was the hope, power, and light of an age. They ruled trade routes, made treaties with kings, won wars, led their people. But then, suddenly one morning, they disappeared from the stage of history, either because of invasions, internal strife, or simply the cruelty of time. What we know today is perhaps just the tip of the iceberg. Who knows how many more empires, how many more civilizations are waiting to be discovered in the dusty pages of history. Perhaps tomorrow an archaeologist's excavation will open the doors to a completely different kingdom. Perhaps a desert storm will reveal another capital lying beneath the sands. History shows us that no power lasts forever. The most magnificent palaces fall, the mightiest armies disintegrate, the richest treasures run out. But the traces they leave behind continue to tell us something thousands of years later. And perhaps that is why it is still important to tell these stories. Because history is not only for understanding the past, but also for remembering the future. Who knows? Maybe the most powerful states of today will one day be remembered in this way. Their names on stones, their traces in the ground. But the truth is that an empire does not disappear when its palaces fall, but when its story is forgotten. History is the great story of humanity. We will continue to tell stories of victories, defeats, rises, and falls. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Goodbye.